Hello, this is not the type of video that I normally make, but it's the type of video that I need to make right now. It's a diabetes video, so not going to be particularly relevant narratively, but just had a blood sugar scare and trying to process it, and I just feel like I need to talk it out. So, if you are a diabetic, type 1 diabetic, or you know someone who is, you understand that while the pancreas may be incredibly complex and brilliant at managing our blood sugars, when you're type 1 diabetic, that doesn't work anymore, and you need to take it over yourself. But it's a very difficult thing because there are aspects of it that are quantifiable. Well, you know that if you, obviously, and each person has different ratios for these, but for me personally, I know that if I eat a meal that is roughly 50 carbs, well, I have a insulin ratio of 1 unit for every 10 carbs. So that means, okay, I'm going to give a shot of 5 units for those 50 carbs. It's like, all right, fairly simple. If my blood sugar is a little bit higher or before dinner, say, maybe 240, something like that, well, then I'll add a correction shot as well. So that, with the ratio, rounded out to be unit and a half, something like that. And so that then bumps it up from that 5 units to 6.5 units. And with the higher blood sugar, I will definitely want to shoot before I eat. And so have a plan ahead of, all right, this is how much I'm eating. And, if I end up having a little bit more, okay, I could add a shot on to the end, but still, planning ahead. On the other hand, if my blood sugar is lower, say, 60, well, then I would both want to deduct some insulin from that shot, figure at least 20 carbs, so that turns that 5-unit shot into a 3-unit shot, and I would definitely want to give that shot after I had eaten. And because the insulin and the carbs do not always act at the same speed. And what you eat can also affect that too. Certain foods with different types of fats, for example, avocado, can change the absorption rate in your body for these sugars that you have eaten. And so you run into the problem where if you've shot for that meal and then eaten a meal that is, for again, whatever of these reasons, higher protein or fats or things like that, absorbing slower, your insulin in your system now doesn't have any of those sugars to work on, and instead lowers your blood sugar to an unsafe level, and you need to then take some sort of snacks and get it up there, even though you know that you've done everything right. In enough time, the sugars will absorb and it'll all balance out, but you can't let your blood sugar get too low in the meantime. So there's a lot to think about. What further complicating things is the fact that the blood sugar is affected by so many different things. Your mood can affect it. Higher stress can affect it at creating a flight or fight sort of increase in adrenaline and flooding your blood sugar or level and spiking your blood sugar levels to help you to have the energy to act. Also, since I'm using an Omnipod to deliver these shots, which is a wonderful convenience, there is also the variation that some pods are slightly less efficient or slightly more efficient based on where you put it on the body. Because if the cannula that sticks into the skin, if it ends up in a certain layer of fat or a certain, then is partially blocked or things like this, it can just make it work minorly less effective or minorly more effective. And so you can have pods where I'm trending a little higher these 3 days, or I'm trending a little lower. But you don't know it's a trend until you've seen it repeat, and then you can try to figure out what caused it. So there's a lot to think about, and it makes I mean, I was basically, I can't remember who it was, but I was told that pretty much diabetes is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job that you didn't ask for, and that not only does no one pay you for, but that you have to pay handsomely for the privilege of continuing. And so it's a lot to think about. And so mealtime is something that is always complex for me and always takes a lot of mental energy. And my friends would kid me sometimes before because they would be able to break from, a Skype call or, a game or something like that. And it's, be back in 10 minutes. Just going to grab some lunch, grab some dinner. Whereas me, it's like, I'm going to be gone for a half hour, 45 minutes. It's like, well, are you eating a 4-course meal? It's like, no, I'm just trying to make sure I have the carb values right, have everything figured out. Some foods the carbs are figured by weight, right? So other times it's by individual pieces. Sometimes it's by portion. And that too can vary. Yeah, there's just so much to think about. And when I was younger, I was like super thin, rail thin, ribs showing, just because I wasn't eating that much because it just was so tiring and just mentally exhausting to do all this stuff. And it's just scary having the realization that if you screw it up, you can kind of kill yourself from not doing this right. And another thing that affects the body is taking a shower. The hot water can, for some people, sometimes speed up the absorption of the insulin. And these are all useful tips to know, to make sure, like, all right, you don't want to take a shower after you've just had a meal, because as with the fats or the proteins in the food making the food absorb slower, the hot shower will make the insulin absorb faster and can make you low. So you have to figure all these things out. With all that being said, yesterday I miscalculated the carbs for dinner. I was down at the bottom of a bag of chips, something ridiculously simple, but the chips are calculated by whole chips. Like 10 chips equals 15 carbs, something like that. I forget it. It varies from brand to brand. But I was down at the bottom of the bag, so they were all little broken bits. And I was just like, I just tried to eyeball it, guesstimate. It's like, this is probably, I think this is equivalent to, maybe I've had 25 chips and figure all this out. Like, okay, I think I got this. It's like, okay, well, I didn't got it. So wait a couple hours. It normally takes about 3 hours for me for the insulin to absorb and for the carbs to fully, run their course. And so wait a couple hours, do a final blood test before bed, see, do I need to do any other corrections, or am I good? Can I go to sleep? And I see, dang it, my blood sugar is high. It's 300. An ideal blood sugar range for someone without diabetes, I think, is it's really low. It's something like 70 to 120 or something like that, I think. Whereas for a diabetic, or it might even be 60, I'm not sure. It's been too long since I looked at those numbers, but that for diabetic, the ideal range is, you want like 70 to 150, kind of in there. Or me, I tend to trend a little bit more from like the 100 to the 230, which isn't necessarily the best for me, but I've just for a long time had a fear of getting a low blood sugar, because with diabetes, you're constantly bouncing back and forth between two extremes. If you have too many high blood sugars, that puts extra stress on your system, that damages brain cells, and it's all little minor things, but it adds up, and it can kill you later in life or make complications like needing to have your toes or feet amputated, things like that. So on one hand, you've got that, but on the other hand, if you go too low, you can have a seizure, you can pass out, and you can just straight up die if there isn't someone around to help. So you're constantly trying to thread that needle. And I tend to try to be a little bit higher just because I want to be safe. But your body's pretty good at giving you signals. And that's what diabetic, that's the 24-hour, 7-day week thing. You have to be in tune with your body. And I know that my body, that I will start to get, my hands will start to tremble, start to feel extra, hungry, and be like, okay, this means that my blood sugar is low. Need to do a blood test. Whereas, as if I'm just feeling really sort of parched and just kind of feeling like my body is almost like an engine that's revving too hard, or is running too many RPMs. And for the current gear that's in, it's like, okay, I think so my blood sugar's high, I better do a blood test and check. So anyway, like I said, blood sugar was high. It was late, and I really wanted to get to bed sooner rather than later. As I said, it takes 3 hours sometimes for the insulin to fully take effect. It was already pretty late at night. That's why a lot of diabetics don't get as much sleep or end up having to stay up later, because you just know if your blood sugar is high, if your blood sugar is low, if you have to deal with it, and it takes this amount of time, and there's not a lot you can do to shorten those amounts of times. And that's just where you are. And so other aspects of your day have to give, because the blood sugar won't. It just won't. You have to do that. So I'm looking at this and I go, all right, well, I know from experience that if my blood sugar is high, one way to bring it down a little bit faster, usually safely, is to give the insulin shot the correct ratio for bringing just the number down, and take a shower. Since this isn't a meal situation where there's sugars that need to absorb, it's just the insulin that needs to absorb to bring my blood sugar down. All right, then it's safe to take that shower and have it help to get that number down a little bit quicker. Usually not drastically, but honestly, sometimes it maybe saves me an hour, maybe a half hour. Usually it's not a big thing, but it just kind of helps. I was like, all right, well, I'll do that. Take a shower. Put on my pajamas. And it's been about a half hour now, so I go back, do another blood test. My blood sugar is now at 180. 300 to 180. That's way too fast of a drop. That's not what naturally happens. Doing normally in a half hour, I mean, maybe, it varies, maybe 25 points. It takes a while for the insulin to absorb. You're going to see a little, but really, it's really not until an hour to an hour and a half, to the 2 hour mark, that you're really going to start to see, okay, coming down. So that means a couple of different things. One, the shower was super effective this time, in which case, cool. Or it might mean that my high blood sugar wasn't created by necessarily me goofing up the dinner shot, but it could have been created by stress or something else, something that doesn't have a quantifiable ratio of giving a correction and for every 50 over of a unit, for every 50 over 150. And so I'm like, all right, I could either have a snack now, because I can see that my PDM is telling me I still have most of the shot on board. Obviously, it's based on a mathematical projection rather than actually reading my system, so it doesn't know how much insulin absorbed faster because of the shower. But I know I'm a little bit lower than I should be with all that insulin on board. But again, I don't want to screw things up. It's late. I'd really like to go to bed, and I know from past experience that if I have a snack too soon to try to counteract that, then suddenly you can end up back up at 300 because you mismanaged. And so it's like, all right, best thing to do, usually in diabetes, best thing to do is wait. Usually wait 20 minutes, do another blood test. And so I waited a little bit longer than 20 minutes. It ended up being about 40 minutes. That's just because I was just feeling really tired of all this. It's just constant, always going on, and it's just exhausting. Yeah, it sucks. So I'm lying there in bed, just feeling, am I going to start feeling low? And wasn't really feeling low. And finally I started feeling, okay, I'm feeling a little bit hungry. Hands are shaking a little bit. Okay, yeah, dang it. It did get low. All right, I'll get up and have a snack. And so I get out of bed and I almost fall on the ground. I can barely stand. I'm super dizzy and I go, okay, I screwed up. I'm much lower than I thought I was. I quick go in. It sucks. I quickly go in, do a blood test, and in the past, the lowest number I'd ever had was about 35. You start to feel low when you get below 60. Again, safe range is, in the 70s, that's still fine. But you start to feel low around 60. It varies, but that's where I start to feel low. Lowest I'd ever been before, 35. Now, if your blood sugar gets below or around 20, that's where you can pass out or possibly have a seizure and need to be revived by a family member using this. This is a glucagon pen. It's basically got a shot of pure sugar in it. And give that. And hope for the best. It's something that you never give yourself. This is emergency for a family member to do if they find you passed out. So, had never had that happen before, but now I'm like, okay, this could be bad. I do the blood test. Previous record low, which is not a record you want to try to do, is 35. This time it's 28. And I feel like a bullet just went past my head and I heard the whistle. I was practically seeing my life flash before my eyes. I'm like, okay, this is really bad. Because again, the blood sugar varies slightly from finger to finger. So you just know it's somewhere in the 20s. And again, you don't know where in the 20s you personally would need to be to pass out. So I'm like, oh my God, am I about to pass out? It's the middle of the night. I'm living with my parents to help with my mom, and so they're both back in their bedroom asleep. What do I do? So I run out, tear the wrapper off of these, which are glucose tablets. These are basically kind of like the Smarties, sort of little candies, is that used to come on that, stretchy necklaces and things like that, and back in the 90s. These are big tablets, though. Very sweet. They're not designed to taste necessarily good. They're just designed to get your blood sugar up quick, which I needed. So I throw half of these in my mouth, start chewing. I'm standing there at the desk going, okay, do I go back and wake up my parents and give them this and go like, I need you to sit up with me? And I had done that once before when my blood sugar was down at 40. I was like, okay, I want to be careful with this. But this time it's like, damn, it's late at night. Dad's been doing such a good job taking care of Mom with her Alzheimer's and doing a bunch of work to help friends, and just needs his sleep. And it's like, I think I can take care of this. That was probably not a best decision, but like, I can take care of this. So I go out to the kitchen, throw the other half of these in my mouth, still feeling dizzy, trying to be like, okay, am I going to pass out? Go. Now, most diabetics, when our blood sugar gets a little bit low, will have a comfort food to bring it up. And sometimes it's kind of a cheat food, too. It's not something you don't want your blood sugar to get low, but it's a scary thing. And so it's nice to have something that is a little bit, I don't know, just helps bring your blood sugar up and also give you a little bit of a smile. For one person I talked to, that was chocolate chip cookies for her. For me, it is Pepsi, the real sugar Pepsi. Yeah. And I like to have that with these saltine crackers that are very bland, extremely bland, very low carb. Not really that great, but they balance each other very nicely, because when you get that low, just your hands are shaking, your teeth are chattering, you just feel like you're starving, and having those crackers to chew on is a nice, calms, it helps to balance the super sweetness of the Pepsi, and it's like, all right, that's normally my go-to thing. And you only use these in emergencies. So this is emergency. I'd already taken all this. And it's just like, when you're that low, that's not a time to think about, well, X number of carbs should bring you X amount up. It's like, no, I still had insulin on board from the previous shot. There were too many factors. I shouldn't have been this low. I don't know what's going on. You have to aim for the safe thing, which is overcorrect, deal with it later. Just be okay with the fact that you're going to sleep very little that night because you have to, your blood sugar is going to end up going high, best case scenario, and you'll then correct it back down. Whatever. You don't pass out. That's what you want. So fine. So crack on the Pepsi, get the crackers, I'm jamming whole, not just single crackers, but like whole 5, 10, and stacks of the crackers in my mouth, drinking the Pepsi, just going, okay, it's all right. Go back, sit down on my bed, and just wait. It's like, okay, all right, it's starting to feel better, and I just still feel like I can hear, and I feel like a bolt was just fired right past my head. It's just like this was life flashing before your eyes. And I'm a gamer, and so for other gamers, it would be the real life equivalent of being in a game without regeneration health, and you get out of a combat encounter you haven't saved in a long time. For me, a long ass 30-year time haven't saved, and boom, you get out of a fight and you go like, wow, I've only got 5 hit points left. I'm so close to dying. I gotta get to a health pack quick. So that's the feeling with this. But it's terrifying when it isn't a game. It's real life. You can look at this and see I've got 28 blood sugar hit points, which means that I have around 6 to 8, maybe best case 10, before I would pass out, have a seizure, maybe die. People do die from it. It is controllable, but these things happen. So I'm just freaking out. Wait a little bit. Finally, okay, blood sugar's going up. All right, fine. I'm just mentally exhausted at this point. Blood sugar ends up going back to 300. I don't fucking care. That's great. It can be 300 all at once. I'll bring it back down to 200 in a bit. Just need that moment. So that is the story of the lowest my blood sugar has ever gotten. This was just last night. I finally got to sleep around 8, 9 in the morning. Just got up, still jam was under my glasses, and still trying to calm down from it. So it's more, this isn't the type of video that I normally share on the channel, but it was just I needed to talk about this because it's just an experience, and it's an experience you don't have. My dad keeps wondering if maybe someday, instead of just the trope videos, if I might also do some sort of short helpful videos on different diabetes tips and tricks that I've learned, or things like that, to help other diabetics, help commiserate. I don't know, in the past it's too depressing of a topic to talk about, and I didn't feel like I could talk about it in a positive light, but maybe I can try to find a way and someday make a sister channel for this that's talking about diabetes things in more of a helpful, here's how you can survive it kind of way. I don't know. Hopefully I'll get back to doing normal trope videos. Life's been really chaotic lately. We're going to be moving soon. Super low on money. I'm still having Alzheimer's problems. I'm still having depression problems. There's just a lot going on, and that makes, like anything, that makes it harder to deal with everything. And with diabetes, you need to be on your game 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I lately have not been, and so that's part of how this came about. So hopefully I can get back on my game a little bit better and not let this happen again. You watched this. I don't know why you did, but thank you very much. And again, I apologize for the downer video. But at least it had a happy ending. So I'm going to see if I can get the camera to pick this up for the record. Nope. blood sugar history list. Let's show on that screen. I'm not sure it will. Come on, focus. Focus camera. There we go. 20. 28, right there. 6:03. 28. 6 in the morning. Yeah. So, that was the thing. All right. Talk to you next time.